odd. Well, this is Mr. Black and Asian Jesus from Gaming Sanity, and we're going to just sort of hit you up with our first podcast at the moment. What we were going to discuss at first is Grand Theft Auto 5. Now, Matthew, I mean, what do you think of Grand Theft Auto in terms of a series, and what do you think of, maybe the potential for improving the series or whatever in Grand Theft Auto 5?
Well, I mean, fan for years. It's a very much a maturing company with Rockstar Games, and we've seen the change from being a bit kiddie humour, and that's all gone to Saints Row, and we're now getting into the much grittier and well-written storylines and developed worlds. So, yeah, as you can see from the latest gameplay footage of GTA 5,
I mean, I have to say, it looks amazing, doesn't it?
They've stepped up the bar unbelievably. We knew it was coming, but from that gameplay video, what we're seeing on the current gen consoles is just going to be fantastic. And they've literally just shown games like Just Cause, which were so focused on making massive maps. Rockstar have shown them how they're going to do things, and with Rockstar as usual, they put every single amount of detail that they can come into these games, and it's just already looking quite stunning.
I mean, for me, I thought the transition from Red Dead Redemption to Grand Theft Auto 5 wasn't too big in terms of graphical fidelity. I mean, quite frankly, when people were saying, oh yes, when the first Grand Theft 5 trailers came out, and we're like, oh, this can't be done on the current generation, blah blah blah. I mean, quite frankly, you look at Red Dead Redemption. I mean, I know there's a few blurred things in the distance, and people can say, oh yes, the landscape's a bit blurred and whatever, but when you look at the character models and you actually look at the individual sprites, of say the rocks and things, it's a fantastic level of detail, and to say that Rockstar, I mean, some of the kings of the generation are not going to be able to, produce something of that level or better in Grand Theft Auto 5, quite frankly, for me personally, is just ridiculous. I mean, quite frankly, I've watched a number of the trailers, obviously, as we both have, haven't we? And when I look at it, what I see is really the sort of the end of this generation's sort of freeform games. I mean, I'm a massive fan of Skyrim. Loved Skyrim. I thought that was a fantastic game. Maybe not in certain gameplay elements. Obviously, we can argue about that another day. But I think in terms of the world and the immersion and the look and feel of the game, I thought it was very authentic. I mean, I've got quite a cracking PC myself, and I've run it on there, and I mean, obviously, there's a lot of bells and whistles on the PC, but really, the core element of sort of going around and exploring and enjoying the world is still there, and I think that's what sort of Rockstar are going to go for this time with Grand Theft Auto 5. I think in Grand Theft 4 it was a very sort of enclosed space in terms of we've got Nico Bellic, is an immigrant. He doesn't really know what's going on. He's brought to this city. It's quite a claustrophobic environment at first until you're sort of let loose and, you can go around doing what you want. But I think, the DLC like Ballad of Gay Tony and Lost and Damned and things like that, they sort of opened up, new areas for the city which weren't obviously originally. I mean, obviously, that's one of the most, obvious statements we can make. But it really did change the sort of environment of the game, the feel of the game, obviously, especially Gay Tony, and the and the Lost and Damned with its filters, which personally I turned off because it just looked ridiculous. And I thought that yeah, exactly.
The noise filter was really quite. I could tolerate it at first, but at the same time, it just ruined a bit of the image. So yeah, I think nearly everybody instinctually turned it off.
I mean, I understand why they tried to do it, but obviously, as you say, it was a bit ridiculous, wasn't it?
It was a bit more tolerable than the effects filter that was put on the PS2 version of Vice City Stories. I remember that was just so blurry and...
Don't you disrespect Vice City Stories? It was one of the greatest... it had one of the greatest soundtracks of all time. And
it had one of the greatest soundtracks.
Who doesn't want Ving Rhames? Let's be honest. Sensible hairdo. Very sensible hairdo, actually. And quite a good actor. However, I'm only messing around, don't worry. But I do have to say, just sort of going back to Grand Theft Auto, I think they did learn a lot, did Rockstar. And I think they listened to the fans when they said, we're not having fun anymore, because it was quite a gritty story, wasn't it? I mean, what did you think of the story?
I mean, yeah, it pitter-pattered towards the end, and really lost a bit of its way. But just the earlier sections of that game were it was so well written, and it made a heap of sense. And it really just gave you that feeling because Nico was just dragged into it by the allure of Roman's letters.
And his lies, ultimately. Yeah. His lies.
The only thing
we'd have all been drawn in by Roman's lies, though.
Yeah. But,
No, but carry on, sorry.
But, yeah, like, each character was well done. I especially liked, who would it be? The Russian mob. The characters from the Russian mob.
The guy, the guy in the nightclub. Yeah, I remember it. Sorry, everybody, I can't fully remember his name. It was 5 years ago when I played this. But anyway, yeah, I understand what the guy you have to kill it. Yeah, you have to kill him, don't you? Ultimately, I remember him. Yeah. Yeah, he was cool.
Dmitri.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, the thing I especially liked, which they're now just putting all in one big clump, is just how they expanded the story, like focusing on those diamonds which Bulgarin believed Nico stole off him, and it's just throughout the GTA 4 portion, you just see these diamonds rock up so much, and it's just very subtle. Like in the intro credits, you're seeing the chef put the diamonds in the cake mix, and you don't at that point you don't realise how big of a deal it is until you find his head.
You're too concentrated on that bird getting whipped, aren't you?
Nah. Well, it weren't the bird getting whipped, it was the bloke.
Well, hey, calm down, fella. No, they're kidding. Yeah, go on.
But yeah, just the way they did it so subtly, and like you get into the other DLCs, Lost and Damned and Ballad Gay Tony, and it just becomes such a bigger picture, and it's also just fun to rock up in another person's head and see how Nico's going through his life from a different perspective. And
I thought it was very good though how they tied it all in there, really, with like Nico at the bank, and Lewis from Lost and Ballad of Gay Tony watching, and how it all tied in. I thought it was fantastic. Really good.
The only bit that was really out of canon was at the start of Lost and Damned, where you see him walking down the street and bumps into someone. That's long before the bridges are opened up.
Nobody likes a smart ass, Matt.
But, yeah.
Yes.
Grand Theft Auto 4 was the start of it all on the generation, and you can see where a lot of Red Dead Redemption's improved on, and Max Payne. And you can now see in GTA 5 a lot brought on from those games as well. So
Sorry, carry on. I mean, what I would say is, I think critically, it's an extremely well received game. I mean, it's one of the highest rated games of this generation. But I think the stats were out. I think it was like 20-30% of people have finished the game. I mean, that is ridiculous. I mean, why?
It's such a shame because. Yeah,
the story's great. I mean, I thought the last few missions, I'm not going to ruin it for anybody, but there's a couple of missions in that game that I thought, good lord. I was seriously, adrenaline going, and sort of freaking out, going, oh my god, this is amazing,
That game was, well, in my opinion, so well done that I was determined to get the 100% on it. So I spent an entire weekend searching for those damn pigeons. It's just...
That's what she said. But anyway, yeah, carry on.
I just did the 100 feathers in Assassin's Creed 3 yesterday, and it took me back
Oh, really?
took me back to GTA 4, where I'm just sitting there going,
You're such a Trojan, dude. You're such a Trojan.
The pigeons were probably some of the most hair-pulling thing. It's just because it was just 200, and you're looking at the map and you're just going, okay, drive there, drive there. It's tedious.
I mean, obviously, don't
ever give me a job as a postman.
About Grand Theft 5. But I mean, obviously, we've seen the trailer. What do you think of that? I mean, for me personally, I was just sat there going, "Good God, this is unbelievable! Look at this." It's almost everything I've imagined. I mean, I couldn't believe when you saw the trailer open, it had that crazy music going, and the plane flew over the dam, and it was just like, oh my God, we're here. And then it started showing you the shooting mechanics and everything, that they've clearly taken from Max Payne 3.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like a studio evolving.
Well, what
do you reckon?
That's the thing. Ever since Rockstar finished up with the third era of Grand Theft Auto, they've really been focusing on improving with the new machines, because you go back to the PS2, even then they slowly evolved and they increased what they can do. Like San Andreas was just... This is the thing with...
I mean, the shoot was a bit clunky,
5.
wasn't it? Let's be honest. It was a bit sort of left trigger and hope for the best sort of thing, wasn't it? And press red button sort of thing, yeah.
But this is the thing with 5, and it just takes me back to what would be 2004, 2005 with San Andreas. They've literally just brought in that same effect that floods your mind kind of thing. And, I was a bit of a kid still then, so I shouldn't have even been playing San Andreas, but pretty much the majority of the populace, again, would have still gotten hold of it. But
don't go out there, kids, and play Grand Theft. It's illegal.
Yes, don't. It will be 18
It's a bad
rated.
game.
Very bad game.
And you won't understand the music either, because you weren't old enough. The 80s are not for you.
Well, I grew up in a little town called Sheringham, and like majority of people will say, it's about 20 years in the past. So I got into a lot of the 80s music and that, because
there's nothing wrong with that.
I know. Well, that was with Vice City as well. Just jump
beautiful.
in.
Beautiful
happy
game.
As can be.
I love that game. It's such a sense of place and time and era. Amazing.
I did pick up the HD version on the iPad, and I just went ballistic for it. I loved it. Even if it was on touchscreen, I just had to get back onto it.
It's okay, people. You can touch yourselves. Don't worry. We all do.
The amazing thing about the iOS version of Vice City was the inclusion of hands. That was the not only
really?
Is
that what the is that what the best? Yeah.
If you go,
tell me more.
If you have a look at the iOS version, just keep an eye on the hands. 'Cause it took me a while to realise, and they've got like individually animated hands in there now. Yeah. That's what she said.
Keep an eye on his hands. Woo. Okay, it sounds a bit pervy, does Grand Theft? Yeah, right. Okay.
They put animated hands in. Let's talk about the evolution of gaming. Honestly, I think it's a lot better than the little blocks of whatever they were on there. But, yeah.
Beautiful. Now, moving on, obviously, from Grand Theft, in terms of, obviously, genre-defining games, let's talk about The Last of Us. I mean, I don't know about you, but I played that game, and it was one sitting. I just sat there for 12 hours and just played it. Now, what I will say about this, and sorry to interrupt, is that, quite frankly, in terms of narrative, character acting, voice acting, and sort of nuance in animation when people are talking to each other, which allows the character development, I don't think I've seen a game like it, to be quite honest.
Nah.
I mean, what did you think of the narrative? I mean, what how did you feel when you were playing it? I mean, were you bothered about LA? Did you sort of become that father figure? I certainly did. And well, obviously we're not going to ruin it for everybody, but I'll tell you this: there's been some brutal steps on the way, you know, to get there.
Yeah,
Wasn't there?
it's just no, that game. Sometimes it felt like there was a whole lot of filler in there, but at the same time, the whole game
You
is
felt
more
there was
about the
filler?
journey. There was some filler in there.
Yeah, there was only I thought there was only a couple of bits of filler. I mean, I'm not, shall we say, near the power station, or there's a couple of things, but I didn't, I think, and obviously when she ran off on the horse, with, just to piss people off, but I didn't think there was so much filler in. I mean, apparently they cut out about 2 or 3 hours of the game out, in the middle. When they go to Wyoming,
Yeah.
I think, apparently they cut out a load of that. So I don't know. I don't think I would agree with that. Whether there's too much filler, I don't think there is. I don't think there was enough story at certain points.
Yeah, that's
But
what I
that's just
mean.
me.
There was a few areas that felt more like filler because it was more about the journey kind of thing. But yeah, some areas where it was just a bit. It was just we've got to get through another section. It's full of things. Same routine.
Well, would
and
you
it was going
not
through a
say that
pattern.
that's what Joel was going through though as a character in the game, and he was having to sort of go through that.
Yeah.
Here we are again.
But then-
I'm having to do this again. But yeah, well, obviously we can't talk about what. Yeah, because we can't do at the end. But
We are
good
used.
lord,
We are
what
used
a
to a lot
character.
of games where, we are used to a lot of games where you just instantaneous onto the next section. So, I didn't mind some of these things that you saw in Last of Us. You just have to keep on pushing along as if it was you're in the journey yourself. But yeah, one of the major things I liked was I was keeping track of which locations we were getting up to, because you were slowly making yourself northwest, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, we're going to make a bit of a U-turn here.
Well, yeah. I mean, to be quite honest, at certain points, I thought the game was over. Not to mention anybody getting impaled, but yeah, I thought at particular points in the game, I thought this is it. He's dead. What's going on here? And then obviously Ellie takes over, and I have to say, I thought that was a really bold move for the game. To take on the role of a child, but she wasn't a kid, was she?
No,
She was more than that.
Yeah, no, she's a very matured kid at that point. But yeah, they just had to. You can't just have a completely vulnerable person in such an environment, because
No, but do you know what I thought was going to happen, right? I'll be honest, right? And I'll say this, and if anybody watches this, sorry for the spoilers, but when Joel got the old, the old little bit of iron through him, I thought that was it. I thought that was game over, and I'd have been happy with that as an ending. He's dead, She has to
continue
do
the
whatever.
journey.
Yeah, but that's not what happened.
No.
She did continue the journey, but in a different way, and I thought that was really bold of the developers, and I thought the narrative of how they played that in, especially in those sections where, obviously it's called The Winter, if you haven't played the chapter, people, fantastic, and how it played between them both, and and how she sort of revealed herself as to what she'd learned from him, and ultimately I thought, he's a bit of a fucking psychopath, isn't he? He's Joel, by the end of it. He's a bit nuts.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
we're not going to go into the whole ending part. But
no, but it's a bit
it was
nuts.
you just go straight through, and you just don't know what the. You're like, why would you be doing this? This is just. Oh wait, yeah, you're a psychopath.
No, but the point is, I mean, the level of violence in the game is something I've not seen in terms of being realistic. Okay, that is not something I've seen personally in a game for, ever. And I've been around for quite some time.
Yeah.
I would also suggest that it's violence that is necessary as well. And I thought when I was playing the game, I became more like Joel, if that makes sense. I sort of reasoned with myself, well, these people are trying to kill me, this is trying to go... you sort of work it around in your own mind. And I think that's quite poignant for a video game, to have that level of depth and intricacy outside of movies or, the spoken word or plays or whatever. I think this game is very much a bridging gap now to show... the video games, up there with movies. I mean, this script lasted. I mean, it took me 14 hours to finish the game. I don't know about you or whatever or anybody else, but the point is, 14 hours is a long time to be engrossed in anything.
Yes.
And I thought that was amazing.
That's like me sitting through Grand Theft Auto 4 trying to get the 30-hour achievement. But yeah, Last of Us really was such a well done journey, and it reminded me a lot of almost like the Book of Eli, where it's just this long ongoing journey, and it really just did set the right atmosphere, the right music, which
beautiful music.
I've got it downloaded and it sits there on my phone, kind of thing. But it was
very ambiguous music as well.
Pretty much majority of everything was done right, and how many people that I've spoken to about it, there's near enough never a bad review about it. I've got people that are actually wanting to borrow my PS3 because they're Xbox fanboys just to play it. And I mean, this is it's done by another company that's matured over the years. I mean, Naughty Dog started off with games like Crash Bandicoot and
Jak and Daxter. Let's be honest, Jak and Daxter games, especially number 3, was in the open world sense was fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Graphically, they've always been good. They've always had the fidelity. But I think they've got it. I mean, I love the Uncharted games, right? As you know, and I have said on numerous occasions, go play the Uncharted games because they're a rollicking ride, but Drake's a masochist at the end of the day. He killed like 2,000 people. In this game, they've taken on a whole new level of storytelling and character development, haven't they? I mean, we can't fully reveal it to everybody, unfortunately, or maybe we have already. I don't know, and I don't quite frankly care. But people, go out and play The Last of Us. It is an amazing journey, and it really is, though. I mean, visually, orally, fantastic how it works. I mean, the acting as well. I mean, it's like you said to me as well. I mean, this is one of the comments I'll never forget. That guy should be the new Sam Fisher, and he should.
Well, that's playing through. I just found so many like little audio snippets from him when he's like talking to Ellie.
Well, that sort of audio was amazing, wasn't it? When they were talking to each other,
he sounded so much like Michael Ironside at times, and because of the snaking elements in there as well, the sneaking felt so much like I was playing like a post-apocalyptic Splinter Cell game. But yeah, it just, you'd forget who's actually talking. You're like, wait a minute, is this Sam Fisher?
I mean, I do have a couple of friends who've actually played it on the harder setting, and they've said it's ridiculously hard. And they've said you got to be really conservative with your your sort of shivs and everything. And obviously you might use a shiv to open the door, and then you go in and there'll be like a couple of bullets and whatever. Now that to me is it's showing that the developers thought beyond just playing it on normal or whatever. It's not just a cheap game where the enemies get more difficult and so, which I find very commendable. Now, the one thing I will give a shout out to on this game is the sense of place, the graphics on the levels, and how, for instance, I mean, you go into an office and there's like charts flipping and books moving. It really immerses you, doesn't it, in the world? Yeah. And I have not seen a game personally for a long time that I actually believed I was there. But at first, it kind of throws you off at first as the game. It sort of gives you a little curveball at the beginning. But after that, once you get into actually moving around in the world and sort of absorbing the environment, and the thing is, well, the fact is, the sense of place comes as well from actually, it's based in our reality, where we are now. I loved all the little movie posters that people had and books and all those little things. I thought that really added to the overall atmosphere of the game as well.
Yeah, no, it's that curveball at the start of it though. It really did take me out initially. I stayed in a form of immersion, but it was just that 20 years later thing. And
do you know what I thought about the 20 years later thing? It was like, look, you've got note to prove. We know what we're going on here. You're 20 years later now, buddy. That's it. Initially, when we first started the game, spoilers, people, I thought that was her, but with black hair. I thought she dyed her hair later on. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? I was like, oh yeah, it looks like her. But it isn't her. But I have to say, the character of Ellie, such acting, wasn't it? Very, very foul-mouthed. but amazing actress. I played it in the old 5.1 headphones, and I have to say, I was immersed. You could hear her talking behind you and all these things. Fantastic. I mean, what I think was one of the best things again is the ambient talk between them both when they're just wandering around. Do you remember the bit when she's telling her jokes from a joke book?
Yeah.
And you just stood there going, for fuck's sake, But you don't have to stand there and listen to her, do you? You can just fuck off and go do what you want. But
there's that one where gets a bit. Yeah, it's a bit more of a crude one, and Joel's like, "Do you even know what that means?"
yeah, that bit as well. That bit where she's looking at the dead bodies, like, you don't need to look at that. She's like, "Come on, dude, I've seen worse than this." I just thought there was a real sense of character development and progression in the both of them. And honestly, the ending, we're not going to ruin it for you people, but good God. To be honest, I didn't think that was going to happen, to be honest. So, that's all I'm going to say on that. Anyway, let's move on to BioShock Infinite. Now, another Game of the Year contender.
Joel's voice actor's got a thing about escorting young girls through the city.
It's Booker this time, but I don't think it's as good a performance, to be honest.
The voice acting was still done well. And the Latouche twins. I think they were the more of the stars of this damn show. They had such fantastic characters, I got to say.
Sorry to interrupt, but what I'm trying to get is, we're talking about here, in my opinion, apart from Grand Theft, we're talking about two Game of the Year contenders here. I mean, we're talking about. I think in terms of The Last of Us, game of the decade or game of a long time. I've been around since the Commodore 64. People, it's been a long time. I remember playing Airborne Ranger, which I thought was amazing because you could run around over 2 screens and 3 screens and sort of pretend to do what you wanted. But I think we're going into an age now of sort of not just sort of narrative, but in sort of narrative that gives the way to discourse, where we can just talk about what we think. I mean, I've heard some people talk about, we should have had, The Last of Us in sections. I mean, what? I'd have been well pissed off if I'd have had to have waited, to play the rest of that game. But furthermore, I would have been more pissed off if I hadn't been able to play BioShock Infinite in April. Now, I'm not entirely sure what to make of this game yet. I'm not too sure if the combat offsets the narrative. I mean, what do you think?
The game has changed so much from the first 2 games, and the change of scenery is. Sometimes I feel that the timeline was a bit too far back compared to what it should be. But I find more of the storylines and the characters, again, that are outside the main plot line, a bit more interesting than what's actually going on in the game. And, I've got one major beef with the game, and I can't really go into it because it is actually towards the end. For someone...
Well, that's good.
That's still going
but
for
what do you think? I mean, I thought the combat and the and the abilities blended really well. I think they learned from Bioshock, didn't they, where it was a bit clunky, wasn't it? You had to change between. Whereas, I mean, obviously I play on the PC where, you have like one button for each and obviously click the middle mouse button down, to zoom in. I mean, what did you think of the combat system? Did you think it flowed better or...?
The combat did quite well, and this was playing on the 360 version. And, yeah, I mean, I got into the combat quite easily. With the enemy health system in that was still reasonable as well. It just felt a bit more... It was a bit faster paced than like Bioshock 2 in terms of combat, and they actually let you move around a whole lot easier, which is the main problem with the previous two games. With Bioshock,
a bit clunky.
Bioshock 2 was a bit more understandable because you were actually Delta, which was a big daddy. So you kind of, when you immersed in that game, you were purposely being a bit more clunky, and you were purposely just jumping off the tops of balconies just to cause a large thud on the ground, just to upset a few splicers. But yeah, sometimes it felt a bit too easy in terms of combat, because they've got this habit of, you don't properly die, you get sent back to a respawn thing in the previous games, and with Elizabeth this time where she pulls you out and revives you, there really isn't that much sense of a form of punishment, unless you're playing on the harder difficulties where they take a small coin incentive off you. But at the same time, when you run out of money, then you still return anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And you end up with a couple of bits of ammo if you're really doing quite bollocks.
I mean, what did you think about like sort of pulling the bits out? Making cover systems with Elizabeth, and did you think it added to the game, or did you think it sort of made it a bit more generic?
It was
tough question.
Yeah, no, it was. It was familiar, but at the same time,
did you find it new?
I didn't actually find it that new, really.
Okay.
And with the whole tear thing, it kind of felt like the actual game started to screw with itself with the mechanics for what the tears were meant to be.
You think it sort of became overcomplicated?
Just with how the tears were meant to be, rather than the fact that you've got this mechanic. Because, like, Elizabeth says that every now and then she'll find a tear and can open it up, and somehow these tears are pretty much all over the place now, which are just obviously handy pieces of equipment for you. Yeah, it just didn't feel that current up there kind of thing. But the thing I liked about the tears in there, though, you would find these little red tears, and you weren't really able to do much about it, but you just listened to what was going on, and you could hear stuff like CCR being played. And that bit was quite explained, though.
Did you think it stands up narratively wise compared to The Last of Us, or did you think, it was a bit hit and miss?
It was a bit.
Did you think the violence? Did you think the violence was too much, maybe, in Bioshock Infinite to justify the cause, or did you think the violence was too much in The Last of Us to justify the cause?
The Last of Us, the violence was very much necessary, and with the infected anyway, killing them was more or less a release for some of the infected, because the runners they didn't have control of their body. Like, these were still people that didn't have control of their body, but when they attacked you, you could hear the emotion from them that they were unwilling to go after you, but it wasn't them in control, so you could hear them being quite sad and crying, if not. So killing them was more of a release from their own torment, whereas the clickers were more or less the person was completely taken back, and when they're clickers, they're pretty much getting ready to die anyway. So Yeah, with Bioshock, some of the violence did get a bit too far, but at the same time, you weren't generally the cause of some of the violence, and it was actually the other characters trying to either stop you or trying to take over, which was what caused the majority of the violence. And yeah, again, it was another game where it was just, here's some people, shoot them, carry on. Here's some more people, shoot them, carry on. But they did help explain why and how Booker was just so okay with killing, and that was because he had part in the wars. But yeah, I don't know. Bioshock Infinite was good, but at the same time, I wouldn't say.
Do you not think it's like? Yeah. Do you not think it's on the same level?
No, not really. It's
okay.
I wasn't that hyped up about it. Although playing it, it was a good game. But at the same time, I don't believe it's going to get a Game of the Year. Really, it will get nominated, of course, but it just wasn't up there. There was a fair few things in there which were just a bit hold on a moment. And yeah, as I said at the end, as it's getting towards the end, it just gets a bit too much.
I mean, for me, I thought it just started to try and get a bit too arty, if that makes sense. You know, he's like, oh yeah, he's really trying to make something definitive, but Ken Levine has always made things definitive without making them definitive, if that makes sense. You know, if people out there understand what I'm talking about. You know, you don't make a game like that, or The Last of Us, by trying.
Yeah,
it just happens.
Yeah, you've got to go quite naturally into it, and I mean, the thing is, with The Last of Us especially, it really was Naughty Dog decided they want to try something a bit different and a bit new. Although it's getting onto the post-apocalyptic bandwagon, they wanted to try and get something that made sense for them. They didn't want to put too many gimmicks in. They literally just wanted to go, we want a proper journey of a game, rather than like other previous games kind of thing. And you look at like the current games out there that do the post-apocalyptic zombie stuff. Great example, The Walking Dead, not the one by Telltale, the latest one, which was
oh good lord,
yes,
yeah.
You know,
yeah,
it really
terrible.
does come down where you've got. It's unfortunate where games are based off AMC Productions and that, or I believe it's AMC. You know, games are based on TV shows. Walking Dead has so much going on with it that somehow they just can't make a game for it, apart from Telltale, which made a fantastic comeback. You know,
well, I think the problem was with the actual other game was it's a first-person shooter for a start. We've all seen that.
Yeah,
you know, it was one of the two brothers as well, which was just ridiculous, and it just carries on. You know, I mean, the list of transgressions can carry on. I mean, it was you can stand on the top of a car stabbing zombies in the head. You know, there's no threat or danger.
Yeah, the gameplay really was just a slapdash, and they made it so shocking. You just didn't have the atmosphere.
Yeah, yeah, indeed.
Which is quite odd, because Telltale Games can make a point-and-click.
No, well, it wasn't them though, was it? You know.
Yeah, Telltale can make a point-and-click game, and although there's a lot of tropes going into it, you still got so into it. And I was literally waiting up for like 2 o'clock in the morning for Telltale to release the next update on the iOS version.
Yeah.
And I was literally
no, exactly.
And you literally you would just like you'd hear it's going to be released tonight, and you go, okay, my time, okay, like 2 a.m. and you're sitting there, you're waiting for this new episode, and like, oh my, I had work at 5 o'clock in the morning. I didn't care. I had to play the latest update,
work.
And like The Walking Dead, especially on the iOS, was just so well done, and it was fantastic. And,
I have to say that mucho impresso to those guys. You know, I mean, the Clementine And Lee. I mean, fucking hell, Lee. What the hell?
Well, there was
I mean,
some good skeletons.
can I ask
in
you a
the
question?
closet.
Right, this is spoiler for anybody who's listening to this. Did you take the chainsaw or not? That's the question. What did you do? Did you do the chainsaw?
Which part was the chainsaw? I can't remember.
Well, when
now.
he cut his arm off.
Oh,
you
cut
know,
the arm off.
you know,
Yes, I did.
Yeah, beautiful.
I
Set it
had
down.
to. It's just that was
Yeah,
like
we could do it. I was hoping they would put it on. Go like cash out Evil Dead, just start kicking shit out of everybody. But hey, that's just my fantasy.
Mm.
Yeah. But yeah, an amazing game. I mean, I've got my save file still ready for season 2 because they're making it, and obviously I'm gonna be getting a PS4 and whatever, but I'm gonna keep my 360 till March, till my little gold subscription runs out, so I can get that and play Grand Theft. But let's migrate, people. PlayStation Network for the win. But anyway, that's just my wild madness. But anyway, carry on about Evil. Sorry, not Evil Dead. Walking Dead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I've been playing on the iPad, and as much as it comes out before, like on the PC version and the console version, it's out beforehand. I've still found it so much better to play it on the iPad, mainly because you don't have to just move the mouse around. It very much is tap what you want, and although the graphics are a little bit less than what you see on the consoles, but it still does not break you away. And yeah, it's just you're sitting there middle of the night, you just got the next episode and it's pitch black, you're loving it. It's fantastic, and the voice acting was well done, just the character development, and just one of the main things I liked was the simplest of things that you can make a comment to, and I'll say Clementine will remember this, or so and so will remember this, and you'll get into like the 4th episode, and it completely fucks you over. Some things you say are just so fucked up, and you can find out about some certain things, like where you accuse the wrong person, or you just let someone choose, and it just buggers up big time.
Well, I think we should actually have another episode about who did what on The Walking Dead. I think that'd be I think it'd be interesting to actually compare our stories, because I think it'd be quite different actually. So that would be a very interesting thing to do.
You can try and get the most moral, the best.
I don't go on the moral high ground, buddy. I'll tell you that right now.
Sometimes you try to be the good guy, at the same time, sometimes you have to be the bad guy.
Yeah,
and
totally.
I mean, you actually see this a lot more in The Last of Us, where again
Do not ruin it though for other people out there who haven't played it.
It brings up the questioning of what's right and wrong at this point in time. And
once this microphone goes off, we are going to have a chat about The Last of Us, because it affected me quite deeply. I was like, good God, this is an amazing game.
Yeah,
the subtlety of the acting, though, and as people talk to each other, is amazing.
A lot of the character building is more out of just walking down dead streets, and as they're just chatting away, kind of thing. You can see that bond getting a bit closer and closer.
Yes,
and
yes.
Yeah, it's just
fantastic.
Yeah, it's anybody who plays it will never really come out with a bad review, and if you do come out with a bad review,
you're an idiot.
You're not actually seeing
you're mental.
The developer's vision, and this was more. Again, it's where, like a lot of games.
I mean, let's be honest, Matthew. I mean, what do you think? Should there be a sequel? I don't think there should. I think they did it all in that. Personally,
there is space, but at the same time, it doesn't need one.
No.
If they decided to, then I wouldn't argue with it, because they have left it open.
There's a lot of material to go there. I will say that.
Yeah, there is a lot of potential to come out in its future.
There's a killer on the loose, and let's be honest. But we won't go into that yet. For you people who haven't played it yet, but yeah, amazing.
But at the same time, you want to see what happens, kind of thing.
Yeah, totally.
It's like some of those games where when it comes to a close, that you've gotten so immersed with the characters, you feel them more as like your friends, and you've seen their journey, and
Mm.
every now and then you just might want to pop in and just say, see how those guys are going, kind of thing.
But just sort of a Skyrim Hearthfire going.
But this is what I mean. You want to bump into those characters again in the future.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a lot like playing the Grand Theft Auto series. Every now and then you'll bump into an old character, and this was like during the free era. Like you ran into Kent Paul, and you're, oh no, not this asshole again. you do want that kind of feeling.
Yeah.
And it's like a lot of people, they want to see some of the characters return from GTA 4 to GTA 5 because you just want to go, hey guys, kind of thing. Because you've seen those characters develop so much, they're just connected to you. So yeah, you just get the same feeling from The Last of Us, because they do leave it open, but they leave that chapter closed. And there's a few things.
I'm really trying not to reveal anything to anybody here. So
there's a few things you
play
like.
Matty for the spoilers.
Nah.
I'm only kidding.
But yeah, no, The Last of Us was a fantastic game, fantastic ending.
Now, the last thing I want to talk about really is something that's really close to my heart, is game ownership. And we've had the debacle with the Xbox One. Oh yes, we're going to be online like Steam and so forth. Now, I know you and me, Matty Boy, have a particular game that we both love, which is Red Dead Redemption. Now, it was made 3 years ago. What happens when our Xbox doesn't work anymore, or our PS3 doesn't work anymore? Where does Red Dead Redemption go, which is one of the most seminal games, in my opinion, of this generation? It's in the top 3, I would say. It's up there in terms of top 3 of one of the best games that we've seen. Where does that go? And should it be catered for in terms of curatorship? Like having a museum or something. I think there should be a sort of a games museum or something like that. I mean, what do you think about this?
Well, it's certainly not going to Steam, by the looks of things.
No, like, it's a smart ass.
No, this is the unfortunate thing. PC has always probably been one of the best ways to keep games archived. Like, nowadays, if you buy something on Steam, you're like, excellent, I've got that game and I'm keeping it. But
you're not, are you?
No,
it's just there.
It's gonna be there, and you can't see Steam going out anytime soon, and they actually keep games running.
Yeah, I don't see Steam getting hauled out, to be honest.
Yeah, they aren't going to keep.
Yeah.
They're going to keep games running and able to work on newer versions of operating systems, because they'll hound the publishers for they.
Well, Windows 7 people, by the way. Windows 7 for the win. Windows 8 shit.
But they'll hound the developers to keep it updated as well, or they'll do what's needed.
No, Windows 7 is one of the best operating systems I've seen for quite some time in terms of enabling old games.
Yeah, you still have to go into a bit of the script and change the color coding in. Was it something you had to do like 256? But that's how you fixed it. And that's what Steam tries to keep going with some of the older games, where they just go, okay, this has already been fixed, so you don't have to worry about it anymore.
Well, that's what I love about it. It just installs DOSBox and goes, whatever. You can play your old games. Yeah, fiddle around with your resolutions and whatever if you want to make it better. But yeah, it's going to work.
But in terms of archiving, Nintendo has really been the ones that have focused on it, because, as they said originally, that they see games as like an old toy that you've got, and you want to be able to pick up that old toy whenever you like. And so they want to keep like the online market, and they want to try and keep all the older products on there, even if it's making them $1 in the future. They don't matter. This is what I've been liking about it. As much as Nintendo really often stick to the past, this is the part of the past that they have really done quite well. And you look at Sony, they want to cater for that as well. But I mean, you still don't see that many of the old PS2 games on their marketplace. It's slowly improving. Rockstar have put the foot in. Here we go. You got your San Andreas, you got Vice City, and all that now.
Yeah, the Warriors, which I was really pleased about as well, by the way, because we love 2D beat 'em ups.
I did see
Gaming Sanity people, we love 2D beat 'em ups, so get yourselves in there. If you want to play it, by the way, on Dungeons of Mysteria or Dungeons and Dragons and whatever, send us a little comment if there's anybody out there who even gives a toss about this. But yeah, we're more than happy to team up with you guys. So anyway, by the way, carry on. Little advert.
Let's plug it in.
Hey, come on. When you know, we've got to get in there. We've got to be enthusiastic before we get destroyed.
I gotta say, seeing the Warriors return onto the PlayStation
Fantastic.
Network, it was
Dude,
fantastic.
I wish I could play the Warriors with you online. I really do, because you and I, we have a good synergy on beat 'em ups. I'll tell you what we're going to have to do with Scott Pilgrim. As a matter of fact, after this, I will play Scott Pilgrim with you online. How about that? And